Morning, everybody. Welcome to day one of the challenge, strength challenge. I forgot to press record on the live, so we're doing it again. Unfortunately, that means I've got to go through it all again as well, so it would be about an hour's worth. Do what you can with the movements. Today was about seeing where everybody was at, getting some feedback, and then tweaking it as we need to, as we go along, to kind of meet everybody where they need to be right now. So if you find it easy, great, let me know. If you find it a bit too tricky, that's fine too. Let me know and we'll tweak it over the next few days. So starting off with sort of just your usual sort of strength, balance, mobility work, and then we'll progress it and make it a little bit more challenging as we go through the weeks. No equipment needed today other than your mat. It's just to give everybody who does get some bands a chance to buy them. And let's crack on. Okay, so we're starting with frog rocks, rocking back in a frog-like position. So we start off in all fours, and then you're going to take your knees wider than your shoulders or your hips. So go nice and wide with the knees, as wide as you comfortably can, really. And then take your feet wider than your knees. So if you look at my position, it's like a W position with the knees. Feet are turned out. And all you're going to do from there is keeping a nice flat spine and your chest lifted, head up, is just rock back and forward. So you just keep rocking backwards and forwards. You might find or feel that you're not going too far. That's okay. Might be a stretch into the groin, or it might just be a mobility movement for the hips. Make sure that you breathe in, no special breath, but just make sure that you are actually breathing. You're not holding your breath throughout any of these movements. A couple more here. And then on this next one, you come down onto the elbows. And it's the same movement. It just alters the angles a little bit. So again, chest is staying lifted, looking just in front of me. So I'm kind of looking up at the camera to see what I'm doing, but I'm keeping my gaze in front of me otherwise, so that my neck and spine stay in line. Nice, easy breath. No force, just rocking gently backwards and forwards. And then pause, come back up onto the hands, and we're just going to add on with the hips. So the same thing, you're going to rock back as we did before. And as you come forward, you're going to pick up your right foot, lift it up to the sky, like you're trying to roll your thigh and your foot towards your right shoulder. And then the leg comes back down and you rock back. Yeah. Bear with me a second. Trying to get into a more comfy position on my mat. That's better. Okay, so same thing, you rock back and forward. As you come forward, pick up your left foot. It comes back down and you rock back. Rock forward, right foot lifts, foot comes down and you rock back. And just keep going, alternating side to side. You might, I like to twist a little bit into mine. So you see I'm kind of rotating a little bit, or you can keep it a bit more of a clean movement and keep still and just make the movement come from the thigh. It's entirely up to you. I kind of like to let it just kind of flow a little bit and just let my body move, but it is all controlled. So I'm not kind of flopping about. And again, keep breathing as you move through. Couple more each side. Let's get nice and deep into the hips and the groin, and last one. And release. And then you're going to come to a full or proper all fours position, if you like. So you're going to come, hands are under shoulders, knees are under hips. And from there, it's entirely up to you. You can have your toes tucked under, so you get a bit of work and mobility into the toes and the feet, or have your feet flat. Either way, it's entirely up to you. And we're coming into a shoulder blade push-up. So as the name implies, the movement comes from the shoulder blades. So you want to feel that your shoulder blades are wide on your spine or wide on your back. Keep the elbows straight and then let the shoulder blades come together. And what it will look like is your chest coming towards the mat, that your elbows stay straight. and then push the floor away and your shoulder blades will go wide. So the shoulder blades slide together, like squeezing a walnut between your shoulder blades, and then push the floor away and your shoulder blades will go wide. And keep going with that. Try and keep your elbows still. There'll be a tendency to want to, as you come down, to bend the elbows like a push-up. Keep your elbows straight and let the movement come from the shoulder blades. Now, if you've done these with me before, you've probably got nice movement or some movement. If you've never been in one of my sessions and this is like, you have no idea what's happening and your elbows are getting involved, don't worry about it. It will come with time. We don't often feel like we've got a lot of movement at the shoulder blades because we can't really see them. We don't really do very much with them. But this movement in and of itself is not just mobilizing your shoulder blades, it's mobilizing your upper back as well, believe it or not. So the spine is actually moving in between your shoulder blades. I'm going to do 2 more. And last one. And then push the floor away and hold it there. Make sure the toes are tucked if they're not already, so you're actually on the toes. And we're going to go into a 4-point plank. So from here, all I want you to do is keep pushing the floor away with the hands and hover the knees just a millimeter off the mat. And you probably didn't even see me move then. The only reason you would know my knees are off the mat, apart from my voice is shaking, is that I can move my knees, you know, they're free from the mat, and then release back down. So same again, you hover the knees as low as you can to the mat. I can even hear my knees kind of floating on the towel here, and then release. The higher you lift your knees, the easier it is. So keep them as low as you can. I'm going to keep going with that movement. So you can time it to the breath. Exhale to lift the knees. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. And it doesn't need to be that big of a breath. I'm just exaggerating so you can hear what I'm doing. I'm going to do 2 more. Lift and lower. And lift and lower. And then if you need to, pause, give your wrists a little bit of a circle as you just come off your wrists. It's a lot of load through the arms. So I like this plank. It teaches you a lot, or teaches your body a lot about control and moving, stabilizing in a very controlled way without, you know, if you come up into a full plank, there's a tendency for loads of stuff to happen at the hips and lots of dipping and crappy movement. Let's go with that. So this teaches you about controlling yourself in a plank without your spine being involved. So you're not in that horrible long position where all sorts of things can happen. So we're going to add on to this, this movement this time. If the holding of the plank, the 4-point plank was enough, just stay there. Otherwise, come with me. We're going to do 3 on each side of it. Elbow, no, a knee, wrist touch. So same thing, you hover the knees just off the floor. And you're going to bring right knee to right forearm and back. Left knee, left forearm and back. You need 2 more each side for a total of 3 on each side. And last one. And then release the knees back down. Again, just rock back off your wrists. Give them a circle. We're going to do that 1 more time. So when you're ready, same thing, come back into all 4s, tuck the toes under. Hover the knees, 3 each side. Right knee, right wrist, left, right, left. 1 more each side. Last one. And then release down. And again, knee back or sit back and give your wrists a twirl. Hear the magpies chattering. They weren't chattering in the first session. It's kind of nice. So you'd be pleased to know we're coming off the wrist. We're coming into some glute bridges. So there are a million ways of teaching bridges and doing bridges, and they all have a purpose and some value. But for today, just to get us in the mood, I'm trying to hit the glutes instead of lifting through the back or the hamstrings too much. So lie yourself down on your mat, knees and feet about hip distance or pelvis distance apart. So if we come just into, if you've got space underneath your back and you lift up into a bridge, you might finish up feeling like your chest is close to your chin. Yeah, so I've kind of, all my weight is dumped onto my shoulders almost. I've got this kind of arched position. Yeah, it misses out quite a lot of the glute work, believe it or not. Puts you a lot more load in your hamstrings, a lot more load in your back. So to try and eliminate that just for today, it's not often I teach it like this, but today it's kind of useful. I'm going to get you to flatten out your lower back first. So all I'm doing is tilting my pelvis, flattening out my lower back, feeling the abs engaged slightly at the front. So from there, then when you lift, if you hold that tucked position, you should feel like your glutes get more involved. And instead of my chest being close to my chin, I've got space. And I'm aiming for roughly one long line from shoulders, through hips, through knees. You might feel a bit of stretch and work through the front of the thigh and the hips. But essentially the work then hopefully is a bit more in the glutes. So then when you lower back down, aim to get your lower back to come down flat to the floor. It's not a forced position. I'm not hammering my lower back into the floor. All I'm doing is gently flattening it out, feeling that little bit of engagement at the front, pushing through both feet and coming up into a bridge. Feel the glutes work. You should better feel them. They should be kind of, solid. And then release. Lower back comes down. And again, press into the feet and lift and lower. And the breath, again, easy breath. Exhale to come up. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. So keep going with that. Just seeing if you can get more and more work in the glutes. Get used to that position of being flat through the lower back. And that's just for today. That's just for this. That's just for this bridge. Usually my motto is, if in doubt, stick your ass out. But for this, I want your lower back nice and flat so that you hit the glutes more. Go one more time, up. And then release back down. I'm going to take that into a single leg bridge, which obviously has relevance for you running. So you want to get more work through one side. So this time, stretch out your left leg. And as you can see, hopefully, you can see it's literally just a couple of inches off the floor. It's not up here. It's hovering just off the floor. And the trick with this is to try and keep the leg low as you lift. So it's the same movement, except it's one leg. You flatten out the lower back, push into your right foot and lift. Now, if you look at my left foot or left leg, it's not lifted beyond the other leg. It's still just below the knee, which puts more work in the glutes, harder. And then come back down. Keep it where it is and lift. Try not to kick through the floated leg and lower. Keep going. Remember, keep the lower back nice and flat to the floor. As you lift and lower, keep checking in with your floating leg and make sure it's not creeping up like mine was. And lower. Got one more on this side, lift. And lower, and then switch sides. So same thing. Right leg goes out long, it's just off the floor. There's a tendency when we do single leg bridges to use the floating leg to kind of kick up. It helps you get off the floor. Try not to move this at all. Don't let it, it's not like you're not letting it move, but just don't kick it. And then push into the left leg, flatten the lower back and lift. And lower. Lift and lower. Same breath, exhale on the lift. Inhale on the lower. Steady away, keeping that right leg low to the ground or relatively low to the ground, not letting it creep up. Last two. And last one. And release. And then we're coming through, coming over onto your front. So we're going to come into a chest stretch. It's one of my favorite chest stretches because it involves a little bit of rotation through the spine as well. So once you're on your front, let me change the angle slightly so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take my left arm and 90 degrees at the shoulder, and the elbow. So it's your, what would you call it, surrender position. Surrender. So that's your left arm. Your right hand is going to be flat to the floor, and I use that to push me over. So I'm going to keep the front of my left shoulder as close to the mat as I can. So I'm going to stay as flat as I can here. And then the right hand, I'm going to use that to roll me. I'm going to pick up my right leg. I'm going to tap the toe behind me. Feel the stretch in the front of the left shoulder. And then rotate back down to the floor. So again, on the other side, change the angle a little bit so you can see better. 90 degree at the shoulder and the elbow. The other hand is you're going to use that to do the stretch. Keep the front of the right shoulder into the mat. Start to roll the body. Use the left hand to push you over. You keep the top leg bent. Tap the toes. Pause, feel the stretch. Make sure you are breathing. And then rotate back down. And then to make it a bit more fluid, a bit more dynamic, we just keep switching sides. So left hand 90-90, right hand to push you over. You feel the stretch. And then release. Switch sides. So there's a few ways that I teach this. Keep going. You can do it with a straight arm. But for today, we're doing it with a bent arm. You can keep the top leg straight, which puts a lot more rotation through the spine, but see how that feels. For some of you, it might feel quite nice. For some of you, be like, no, a bit too much. And if your toe doesn't touch the floor, that's okay. But we're rotating through the spine. Need to be able to resist rotation when you're running, but that means you need some in the first place. So it's good to get some rotation in because we don't do it very much. And the reason why we're opening the chest and stretching the shoulders so much is because you need them when you're running. They're what set your rhythm when you're running. That's why we're doing it, and make that your last one. And then come on up. So we're going to finish off with some balance work and some lunges. Oh no, we're not. I've got another one in between. Just noticed my notes. I think my brain was just wiping this one out because it's my quads that are really sore from the downhills that I was doing the other day. So I'm feeling a bit pathetic and a bit sorry for myself. And this exercise is all about the quads and the hip flexors. So anyway, it is what it is. Right. So you're going to tuck the toes under. Really tuck them under as much as you can. Get them really tucked. And then sit your bottom onto your heels as best you can. You might find that you're here, that you can't really sit up too well. And that's your body kind of going, oh, that's a bit nippy through the feet. So we're actually stretching out the sole of the feet here and mobilizing into the toes as well. And your feet and your toes, if you've seen anything that I've been doing over the last 20 years, I'm obsessed with feet. So that's why. Anyway, I won't bang on about feet too much. So stretch them as best you can. And try to get yourself as upright as you can. And it is where it is right now. So you're here. Yeah. So from there, all I need to do is just kneel up. Pitch forward then. I nearly went too far, nearly overbalanced. And then sit back down. And you might think, oh yeah, there's a bit of challenge in my legs, but not much. So we're going to add on to that. So that's the movement. It's just where we move from and when that makes this more challenging. So as you can see here, if you can see, you probably see I've got my lower back, my butt stuck out essentially. I've got a nice curve to my lower back. What I want to do is get rid of that curve. So just like we did with the bridges, I'm going to tuck the tailbone under. You can see I've kind of come into a C shape. And then I'm going to lead with my pubic bone. So if somebody had hold of my pubic bone here, my pants, string rope attached to that, I'm going to lead with that part of my body. And what you should feel is more work in the thighs. Then instead to go back down, instead of just sitting my butt down, I'm going to lean, lean, lean. So again, I'm kind of leading with my pelvis, as it were. So I'm leaning back as much as I can. And then when I can't go any further and I'm killing here, I sit my butt down. Yeah. So to come back up, tilt the pelvis under, rope attached to your pubic bone. And it's there where I'm being driven from or pulled from. And you should feel quite a lot of work in your quads. Same thing going back, hinge back. So the pelvis is still forward. I'm trying to leave my pelvis right over there. Leave it there, leave it there, leave it there. And then sit at the last minute. Pelvis leads to come up, hinge back and sit. Pelvis leads to come up, hinge and sit. It's all, I say should, I don't like the word should, but it should feel like a lot of work on the thighs. Tilt under and come up and hinge back. Quads do a lot of work when you're running. They do a lot of work to slow you down. That's what this is doing. This is slowing you down and then releasing. This is them working to pull you up and then acting to slow you down like brakes. It's good to train them in both ways. Last one, pubic bone leads. Leave the pubic bone way over there as you hinge back and then sit. You'd be glad to know that's over. I'm glad it's over. Balance work, balance work. I knew there was something else. Right, coming to standing this time. So two of my favorite lunge kind of things. If you might have done some of these before, you might not. So get rid of my towel just so I'm on a firmer surface. It's easy to balance on something that's solid rather than something that isn't. For the first one, we're just going to play. We're just going to practice. So let's do it this way. Practice your single leg balance first. I've got nobody to look at this time, so I can't see how people's balances and stuff, but everybody that on the live this morning did amazing. So I'm not going to sort of prat about too much with single leg balance, but just see where you're at. So bring one leg up and hold your balance. Nothing other than that, just seeing where you're at. Nice and loose through the arms, able to breathe. In other words, you're not kind of doing this movement. See if you can, knock myself off balance. See if you can hold and just be nice and loose through the arms, relaxed. You get some twitching through the leg, you know, so you get that kind of, those little micro movements that are holding you up, and that's fine. And then lower that down and pick up the other leg. And just see if you can get the knee above the hip, you know, get this leg up quite high. There's value anywhere, by the way, you know, anywhere in that range of movement is fine, but just getting the knees nice and high. Like if you were running, you want your knees to come through. So it's good to be up here while we're practicing. And then release. Okay, so we're going to add in the arms and we're going to add in a leg movement behind. All right, so same thing. I'm trying to find a piece of floor that's not lumpy. Right leg comes up, and this time opposite arm. So right leg up, left arm in front, right leg behind, like you're running this movement. Yeah, opposite arm, opposite leg. And then from there, you're going to take your right foot behind you, bend into the front leg, switch the arms. So the foot's come down behind. So essentially it's a front lunge. It's almost like a sprinting position, where it's a front lunge. So you're loaded through that front leg and then you come back up, switching the arms into your balance position. Same thing, leg goes behind, arms switch, front leg bends, push the floor away with the back foot, switch arms as you come up into your balance. Now I like slow. One of my favorite sayings, speed hides need. So if you can own a movement slow, then you earn the right to do it fast. If you're feeling fairly solid when you do this, you can make it a bit more dynamic and let it flow a little bit. I'm trying to keep my elbows bent to the same kind of, I don't know, maybe 90. But what I'm trying not to do is as they switch, let them kind of go away on their own. So they're staying at 90 degrees or thereabouts. With the back one that tends to want to do this. Like I say, the arms drive the movement when you're running. Let's switch sides. Or they set the rhythm. Yeah, so the better you get with your arms, the more improvement you get elsewhere as well. So the arms they are important. Let's go with that. They are important. Right, stop banging on, Kel. Left leg up. Right arm forward, left arm back. Whatever this angle is at the elbow, about 90. Same thing, nice and slow to start with. You're switching arms. As the back leg goes back, toes touch, knee at the front, bends. So you're loading up that front quad again. push the floor away and come back to your balance as you switch arms. Keep going with the movement, nice and slow to start with. You can speed it up whenever you like. If you're fairly solid through the movement and your balance is good. Last two. Last one. And release. So that's essentially a backwards lunge. In other words, we're stepping back into that movement. So do one where we step forward. And it's a, what do they call it? Forward reaching lunge. Forward reaching lunge. It's exactly where it says on the tin. So we're going to lunge forward with right leg first. So you can see my feet. So you're going to lunge forward with the right, which means the left arm is going to go up. So take your right foot, take a giant step out in front, up on the toes at the back, just a lunge position. Now from here, once you're settled and you've got your balance and you're solid, you're going to reach with your left arm to the floor in front of you, like you're trying to reach, I don't know, to pick something up off the floor, which means this front leg's going to have to bend quite a lot. So start to bend the front leg. I'm going to reach, and touch the floor. I'm relatively flat through the back. I'm trying to keep this butt lifted. I'm not kind of sagging into it. I'm keeping my butt lifted. If you keep your butt lifted, you should feel more work in this glute. And then before I come back up, I'm going to make sure that my body and my arm are back upright before I push off that front leg and come back to standing. And I'm going to switch sides. So right arm comes up. You take that giant step forward with the left. Stick the landing. In other words, get solid, make sure you're in a good position. And same thing, I'm going to reach forward. So leading with the chest. Lead with the chest, which will help keep your back flat. Reach. Touch the floor in front if you can. Make sure you stay lifted. Yeah, so I'm not sinking into that front leg. Butt stays lifted. Same thing, you come back upright. And then you push back. Switching sides. So you can let it flow a little bit. If you're solid and you've got your balance and what have you, let it flow a little bit. So step, reach, lift the chest back up, push the floor away, back to standing, switching sides. Step, reach, body back upright, push the floor away, switching sides. Oh, got my arms and legs wrong. Try that again. I always do that. I always want to step with the same arm, same leg. It's opposite arm, opposite leg. So if left arm's up, stepping with the right. Stick the landing, reach to the floor, back up to vertical, push the floor away. One more each side. Lead with the chest, lead with the chest, lead with the chest. Last one. Oh, I've done it again. If you're like me, you are completely incapable of doing opposite arm, opposite leg on one side. The other side, it makes sense. One side doesn't, which tells me something about something. Not sure what. But that's your last one. All right, so last exercise. We're coming back to what we were doing before, which is your running man exercise into a balance. But this time we're going to take it into a balance instead. So I'm going to start with my left leg because I know that that's the side that's struggling. So left leg's going to come up. Right arm forward, left arm back. So this time, as you come into that running man, instead of your foot touching behind you, you're going to keep it off the floor if you can. If you need to touch, that's okay. But if you can, keep it off the floor. So you're coming into a balance. So left leg reaches behind, front leg dips and loads, and then back to your balance. The arms are alternating. Don't need to do too many of these. 5 or 6 on each side. I'm going to do one more here. back into my balance, and then release. I'm going to try the other side. This is the side that's giving me some grief this morning. So standing on my left leg this time, right leg up, which means left arm is forward, right arm back. So same again, I'm going to take the right leg behind me slightly, but it's all about loading up the front leg again, loading up that glute, hold the balance, and then come back through. Again, arms are staying roughly 90-90. Keeping the leg that is reaching behind you, keep it bent. It's not here, keep it bent. And last two, if I can hold. And last one. And release. Marvelous. Okay, so that was roughly half an hour, or it should have been. I might have zipped through it a little bit quicker, given that it was a recording rather than live. So if you are, well, you will be watching a recording this time, because this is what this is. But if you are watching the replay, comment below, just comment replay, just so I know who's kind of getting involved on who I need to sort of seek feedback from. So if you are having a bash at it, marvelous, whether it's live or not, play with it, but leave some feedback, because at the end of the day, these sessions need to be really driven by you. You know, it's not what I need, it's what you need. So if some of that was easy, let me know. Some of it was hard, let me know. If you want me to break down any of the movements, you might not be able to remember what I called them, but you can kind of say, oh, you know, it was that weird shouldery thing you did. Oh, I didn't get that. I felt like I was doing it, but I wasn't sure if I was doing it right. Whatever. I'm quite happy to break some of the movements down, because we will be repeating them. We'll try and make each day sort of a little bit different, but we're going to have to repeat some movements so that you kind of get them in your body, as it were. That, as you've probably gathered if you're in the group, I'm a big believer in it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. Your body will do what it needs to achieve the movement, and sometimes we can kind of just tweak that a little bit and give you give your body and your brain a much better movement experience, just with a few tweaks for you personally. So I'm more than happy to have a look at anybody's movement in any of these exercises, or anything else for that matter. You just have to let me know. So it's all about communication. Let me know how you get on, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.